first, they thought it was a joke. A small studio room, bare wooden floors, folding chairs pushed against the walls. A handful of martial artists, stuntmen, and skeptics standing around with their arms crossed, waiting to be impressed or disappointed. Bruce Lee stood in the center. No stance, no tension, no show. Someone in the back whispered, "That's it? That's the famous one-inch punch." Another voice followed, louder. "You can't generate power from that close. There's no momentum." Bruce heard them. He always did. He didn't argue. In front of him stood a volunteer, bigger, heavier, confident, feet planted, chest out. He had agreed to test it because he didn't believe it could work. "Brace if you want," Bruce said calmly. The man shook his head. "I don't need to." Bruce positioned his fist exactly 3 centimeters from the man's chest. Close enough to feel body heat. Close enough to feel breath. The room leaned in. No wind-up. No warning. No visible effort. Someone smirked. "That's impossible." Bruce exhaled. In the blink between breaths, his body aligned feet, legs, hips, spine, shoulder, fist. Everything connected into a single, unified decision. Impact. The sound wasn't loud, but the effect was immediate. The man's breath left his body in one violent rush. His feet slid backward. His balance vanished. He stumbled, eyes wide, hands dropping instinctively to his chest. The room froze. No laughter, no comments, no explanations, just silence. And in that silence, everyone realized something unsettling. They hadn't just seen a punch. They had seen structure defeat disbelief. And this was only the beginning. The man didn't fall. He didn't need to. He stood there, bent slightly forward, hands on his knees, trying to remember how breathing was supposed to work. Air came back in broken pieces, sharp and painful, like his lungs were rebooting. 30 seconds passed. Then a full breath. He straightened slowly and looked at Bruce. Not angry, not embarrassed. Confused. "How?" he managed. Bruce lowered his hand. Already relaxed again. "Power doesn't come from distance," he said. "It comes from connection." Someone broke the silence from the edge of the room. But there was no swing, no momentum. Bruce nodded. "Momentum is borrowed power," he replied. "I prefer power I own." A few people shifted uncomfortably. They replayed what they thought they'd seen, no chamber, no push, no visible effort. Their eyes had searched for something dramatic and found nothing. "That shouldn't work," another voice said, quieter now. Bruce stepped back and gestured to the volunteer. "Tell them what you felt." The man hesitated, then spoke honestly. "It wasn't pain," he said. "It was like, my structure disappeared." Bruce nodded once. "Exactly." He turned to the group. "When you punch with muscle, you push. When you punch with alignment, you transmit." He demonstrated slowly this time, no strike. Just movement. A subtle compression through the legs, hips settling, spine aligning, shoulder releasing. Everything small. Everything connected. "You think power needs space," Bruce continued. "But space creates delay. Delay gives your opponent time." Someone crossed their arms. "So you're saying distance makes you weaker?" Bruce shook his head. "Distance gives you options. Closeness gives you certainty." The room leaned in again. Bruce repositioned his fist 3 centimeters from the volunteer's chest once more, but didn't strike. "From here," he said, "there is no warning, only decision." The volunteer swallowed, because now he understood something he hadn't before. The danger wasn't the punch. It was how early Bruce had already decided. And suddenly, everyone wanted to understand that part. The skeptics shifted their weight, arms uncrossed, jaws unclenched. What had sounded impossible a minute ago now felt uncomfortably logical. "Show us again," someone said. "Slower." Bruce nodded. "Slower is harder," he replied. "But yes." He asked the volunteer to stand naturally, no bracing, no theatrics. "Don't help me," Bruce said. "Don't resist me. Just exist." Bruce placed his fist back at 3 centimeters. He didn't strike. Instead, he explained. Power begins at the feet, Bruce said. But it doesn't stay there. It rises through the legs, passes the hips, aligns the spine, releases the shoulder, and exits the fist. If any part is disconnected, power leaks. He moved millimeter by millimeter, letting them see the sequence. A slight settling of the heels. Knees soft, not locked. Hips dropping a fraction. Spine lengthening. Shoulder relaxing, not pulling back, but letting go. This isn't tension, Bruce said. It's compression. He stopped, looked around, made sure they were watching the right thing. Now, he said. The strike. The motion was so small it almost didn't register. No snap, no push, just a sudden transfer like flipping a switch. Impact. Again, the sound was modest. The effect was not. The volunteer rocked back, feet scraping. His body reacted before his mind could label what happened. Hands flew to his chest. Eyes widened, not in pain, but in shock at how little warning there had been. The room exhaled together. That was slower, someone whispered, and it hit harder. Bruce nodded. Because nothing fought itself. He turned to the group. Muscle creates force. Structure delivers it. When structure is correct, even a whisper can shout. No one laughed now. No one doubted. They were too busy trying to feel their own feet, their hips, their spine, trying to find the places where power was leaking, and realizing one by one that the punch wasn't the mystery anymore. They were. The room didn't move for a long moment. Then someone tried it. A young stuntman stepped forward, nervous but curious. He copied Bruce's stance, at least what he thought the stance was. Feet planted, fist close to the chest. He pushed. Nothing happened. A few people nodded as if to say, there it is. That's reality. Bruce stopped him gently. You're pushing with your arm, he said. Your arm is late. The stuntman frowned. Then where does it come from? Bruce placed 2 fingers lightly on the man's lower back. From here, he said. But only if everything above and below agrees. He adjusted the man's posture by centimeters, relaxed the shoulders, softened the knees, aligned the spine like stacking coins. Don't try to be strong, Bruce said. Try to be whole. The stuntman tried again. This time the strike traveled through him differently. Still weak, but no longer empty. His eyes widened. I felt it. Bruce nodded. Good. Now remove effort. The room leaned closer. Another volunteer tried. Then another. Some failed completely. Some felt something new and unsettling. None produced what Bruce did, and that was the point. You're not here to copy me, Bruce said. You're here to discover where you're disconnected. Someone finally asked the question hanging in the air. So why don't people fight like this? Bruce paused. Because it takes away excuses, he said. You can't blame size, or strength, or distance. He returned to the center and placed his fist 3 centimeters from the volunteer's chest again. From here, Bruce said, there is nowhere to hide. He struck once more. The volunteer staggered back, breath gone again, eyes wide again, and the silence came back heavier than before, because now everyone understood. The punch wasn't a trick you could steal. It was a truth you had to earn. The volunteer stepped back, shaking his head, half laughing in disbelief as his breathing settled again. It doesn't feel like being hit, he said. It feels like my body forgot how to stand. Bruce nodded. Because balance is a conversation, he said. And I interrupted it. Someone at the edge of the room crossed his arms tighter. But in a real fight, he said, you won't always be that close. Bruce turned to him calmly. Then I won't use that punch. A few people blinked. The 1-inch punch isn't a weapon, Bruce continued. It's a test. If you can generate power here. He held his fist 3 centimeters out again. You can generate it anywhere. He asked the group to form a half circle. Watch the feet, Bruce said. Not the hand. He demonstrated without striking. A subtle drop of weight, a quiet compression through the legs, hips settling like a loaded spring. The fist barely moved, yet the body felt ready, alive. This, Bruce said, is why distance is optional. A senior stunt coordinator stepped forward, skeptical but respectful. Most people say power comes from rotation. Bruce smiled faintly. Rotation is one way. Connection is the principle. He invited the coordinator to brace lightly, just enough to feel. Bruce aligned again and struck, controlled. The coordinator slid back a step, eyes widening. No pain, just surprise. Notice, Bruce said. Your mind reacted after your body. The room murmured. Speed, Bruce continued, is not how fast you move. It's how early you commit without warning. He stepped back, letting the moment breathe. People looked at their own stances, their own shoulders, their own habits. Some tried to feel the ground through their feet for the first time in years. Bruce picked up his bag. Practice removing waste, he said. Power appears when nothing argues. The silence returned, not stunned now, but focused. Because the mystery had shifted. It wasn't how Bruce did it. It was why they couldn't. The group didn't break apart right away. No one rushed to talk. No one checked the time. It felt like leaving too quickly would mean losing something important. One of the skeptics finally spoke. If this is real power, he said, why don't we see it more often? Bruce looked at him, not critically but honestly. Because it doesn't look impressive at first, he said. People want big movements, loud answers. This is quiet. He stepped back into the center and asked the volunteer to stand again. Not for another strike, but to feel alignment. Bruce placed a hand lightly on the man's shoulder, another near his hip. Feel this, Bruce said. Your body wants to fight itself. Upper body rushing. Lower body late. The volunteer nodded. I feel split. That split is weakness, Bruce replied. Muscle hides it. Structure exposes it. Bruce demonstrated again, this time stopping just short of contact. Even without impact, the volunteer rocked slightly, surprised by the pressure. You didn't hit me, he said. Bruce smiled. I didn't need to. The room stirred. Bruce addressed everyone now. Most fighters chase power. Power is a byproduct. What you should chase is unity, everything agreeing at the same time. Someone asked quietly, how long did it take you to learn this? Bruce paused. I'm still learning, he said. Every day I remove something else that isn't necessary. That answer stayed with them. Bruce stepped away from the center. The 1-inch punch isn't special, he said. It's just honest. It doesn't let you cheat with momentum or strength. The volunteers looked at each other. They all knew what that meant. You couldn't fake this. You either had it or you didn't yet. And that realization was heavier than any blow. No one laughed anymore. Not even nervously. The room had shifted into something closer to a classroom than a demonstration space. People weren't waiting to be amazed now. They were waiting to understand. A man near the wall spoke up, voice measured. If it's not strength and it's not distance, what is it really? Bruce took a moment before answering. He always did when the question mattered. It's honesty, he said finally. That confused them. Your body, Bruce continued, is always telling the truth, where you're tense, where you're disconnected, where you're late. The 1-inch punch exposes that immediately. There's no room to hide mistakes. He walked slowly across the floor, barefoot steps quiet. When people strike from far away, they can cheat. They can wind up. They can borrow power from speed and momentum. Bruce stopped and turned back to them. From 3 centimeters, there is no cheating. He asked another volunteer to step forward. This one was lighter, quicker, confident in his speed. Bruce positioned again 3 centimeters. Same calm, same stillness. The volunteer swallowed. I'm ready. Bruce struck. The effect was different this time, but just as decisive. The volunteer staggered sideways instead of backward, structure collapsing diagonally. He caught himself on a chair, eyes wide. That felt wrong, he said. Bruce nodded. Because your alignment was wrong. The room murmured. You see, Bruce said. Power doesn't care about your intentions. It follows your structure. If your structure lies, power punishes you. He turned to the group. This is why I don't believe in styles, he said. Only in principles. Someone finally said it out loud. So this isn't about the punch. Bruce smiled faintly. It never was. And in that moment, everyone understood. The silence wasn't awe anymore. It was recognition. The silence lingered, thicker now, not uncomfortable, focused. People weren't impressed anymore. They were recalibrating. A man near the doorway finally spoke. If this works at 3 centimeters, he said, what happens in chaos? In a real fight? Bruce nodded, as if he'd been waiting for that exact question. In chaos, he said, truth shows faster. He asked the group to spread out slightly. Chairs scraped the floor. Someone bumped a wall. The order of the room dissolved just enough. Stand naturally, Bruce instructed one volunteer. Don't think about technique. Think about staying upright. Bruce didn't square up. He didn't pose. He simply was there. He placed his fist close again, 3 centimeters, but this time he didn't strike immediately. He waited. The volunteer's breath changed. Shoulders tightened. Weight shifted forward. That, Bruce said quietly, is the moment. He struck. The volunteer's balance vanished. Not violently, inevitably. He stumbled back 2 steps, caught himself, and stared at the floor like it had betrayed him. Bruce stepped away. In chaos, he explained, people reveal themselves faster. Fear speeds up decisions. Bad structure collapses instantly. Someone asked, so the punch is just a shortcut? Bruce shook his head. It's a mirror. He looked around the room, meeting eyes. If your body is honest, the punch feels small. If it lies, the punch feels huge. The group absorbed that in silence. Bruce continued, that's why most people don't like this. It removes comfort. It removes excuses. He demonstrated again, this time stopping short, no contact. Even without impact, the volunteer rocked, surprised. You don't need violence, Bruce said. You need clarity. The room had no objections left. No clever remarks waiting to surface. Because everyone could feel it now. The danger wasn't the punch. It was how early Bruce already knew. No one checked their watch anymore. Time had lost its shape in that room. The air felt heavier, not because of tension, but because every assumption people walked in with had been quietly dismantled. No explosions, no theatrics, just undeniable cause and effect. One of the older martial artists finally spoke, voice low. I've trained for 25 years, he said. Forms, power generation, conditioning, and I've never felt anything like that. Bruce listened without interruption. It felt, the man continued, searching for words, like my body was betrayed by its own habits. Bruce nodded slowly. That's because habits don't care if they're correct, he said. They only care if they're familiar. He stepped back to the center and asked everyone to stand. Not to fight, not to demonstrate, but simply to stand. The room filled with subtle movements. Feet adjusting, shoulders lifting, weight shifting unconsciously. Look at yourselves, Bruce said. Most of you are already preparing for something that hasn't happened. He walked through the group, gently tapping shoulders, hips, spines. Each touch revealed tension people didn't know they were carrying. This, Bruce continued, is why the 1-inch punch matters. Not because it's powerful, but because it shows you how early you give yourself away. A younger man swallowed. So in a real fight, you'd already know? Bruce stopped walking. I wouldn't know, he said. I would feel. He returned to the volunteer one last time. 3 centimeters. Same distance. Same calm. This isn't about striking, Bruce said. It's about decision. He struck, controlled, precise. The volunteer didn't stumble far this time. Just enough to understand. Enough to feel it without panic. When he straightened, his face had changed. Not fear. Not embarrassment. Clarity. I moved before you did, he said quietly. Bruce smiled faintly. Exactly. The room stayed silent again. But this time it wasn't shock. It was acceptance. Because everyone there understood the same thing. What they had just witnessed couldn't be unlearned. And whatever came next, training, fighting, living, would never feel the same again. Years later, no one remembered the exact size of the room. They disagreed on who was there, on how many people watched, on whether the strike sounded loud or quiet. But everyone remembered the silence. Not the kind that comes from fear, the kind that comes when the mind runs out of arguments. Bruce Lee never talked about that demonstration publicly. He never used it to promote himself. When asked about the one-inch punch, he would smile and say very little. Because explaining it was never the point. What stayed with the people in that room wasn't the power. It was the timing. They remembered how the strike didn't arrive. It was already there. How Bruce didn't rush, didn't tense, didn't announce himself. How everything that mattered happened before the fist ever moved. The one-inch punch wasn't about distance. It was about truth. It showed them that strength borrowed from momentum can be impressive, but strength born from alignment is unavoidable. That speed measured by motion is late, but speed measured by decision is immediate. Some of them went back to their schools and changed how they trained. Others tried to copy the punch and failed again and again because they chased the effect instead of the cause. A few understood the lesson fully and stopped trying to look powerful at all. Bruce Lee walked out of that room the same way he walked in. Calm. Unremarkable to the untrained eye. Uninterested in applause. But everyone else left different. They left knowing that real power doesn't need space. Real speed doesn't need warning. And real mastery doesn't make noise. That's why the story survived. Not because Bruce Lee struck from 3 centimeters, but because in that moment, everyone else realized how far away they really were.